Hi, Neno. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. A lot of times I'll hear, specifically in the arts, we've always done it this way. We're just going to keep doing it because this is the way that we've always done it. And I feel that actually the status quo is what's hurting us, that we're not adapting like other industries adapt. You're nodding your head. So does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely, because especially in the arts, right? Art is innovation. It's seeing things in a whole nother light. And so to be stuck in this very rigid, well, this is the way it's always been done is so mind blowing to me. If we're so rigidly focused on the past and what we should be doing, then we can never innovate and create the thing that we really need to be creating and moving towards that sense of aligned action because we're just doing all the should.
We often shy away or we ignore failure, specifically when it comes to the arts, which when I think of a quote, I don't know if it was Edison or who talked about how he loved failure because he knew when something wasn't working, like that was one more thing to check off the list that wasn't working. I think with artists, so much we put out or we only allow audience to see perfection. And therefore, they don't really understand the complexities that what goes into the craft.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you think of it in the sense of there is no failure, there's just giving up. We're evolving. Whether your art starts at point A and then evolves to point B, and that could apply to anything creative. And so it's an evolution. And I think that mindset is really powerful.
What advice would you have to someone that is afraid or feels that they just don't have time to evolve? And I loved your quote, there's no failure, there's just giving up. I never thought of it that way, but it's true. And so talk a little bit about what advice you could give to somebody to shift.
Find a way over, around, under, or through, but never give up. I had a mentor once who said, you either learn or you win. Either way, you win because you've learned something. And so I think that is that just like learning how to embrace that mindset is a big make or break. If you find yourself, you don't have time to write the book because maybe you are running a massive industry or massive business and you're a single parent and you got all these other things going for you or whatever, then there's still a way. There's always a way. And that way might be 20 minutes of writing in the morning until it's done. And it might take you 5 years to get it done. There's always a way. And we have to focus on what the solutions are and not so much the problems.
Do you think that others just expect or should know what that entails and what you do? Or should we explain more and more often on the process and the work that it takes to produce that product?
Knowledge is power. Working in whatever industry, whenever you're able to communicate the time it takes, the value you bring to the table, it helps people outside of that industry understand better and value you better. So I think it's all about balance that way. We need that education so people can understand, people outside the industry can understand the value and impact that creates. But we also need that freedom for people to interpret our art in the way that resonates most with them.
I think that we don't give enough credit to the power of story, which then goes to this Rebel Writers Workshop that you are going to be leading. Talk to me about that. How did that come about and who is it for?
There's so many people who could be writing so many amazing books. And I just think about myself growing up. I have ADHD, I'm dyslexic, and I couldn't read until I was in like third grade. And by the time I was in third grade, I already had this narrative that I was the dumb kid. And I grew up always thinking that. And no matter how good I was at poetry, no matter how much people liked my papers and how many stories I had in my head, I never took that step because I had this narrative that I was not intelligent and that I couldn't do these things because I could barely even read. So who do I think I am to be writing books? That narrative prevented me from doing the things that I wanted to do since I was a child. And so with this workshop, I really want to help people to overcome those mindset blocks and give them tools that they can use to actually start writing their books. Because sometimes the most incredible stories come from people who don't believe they have the skill to write, or they don't believe they have the intelligence to write. Those are limiting beliefs. and there's always a way around them. So that's why I kind of created this 3-day workshop. The first day is all about mindset, because mindset shifts are the make or break. That is the transformational moment. And then the second day is about creating your anchor. This is where you have that why, that all of the reasons why you're doing it. So whenever you're down the road and you're in editing, or maybe you're only 30,000 words in and you got so much more to go, and you're just like, oh, this is so hard. And those moments when you want to give up come around, you have that anchor point to hold you to that book, because then you remember why you're writing that book. And then the third day is all about creating a healthy foundation. So identifying what the heart of your book is and building out some of the foundational key points in reaching that arc of transformation within any book. Just like a story arc, we have an arc of transformation. So you have those components, but then you also have how do you go about the writing process, your writing routine that fits you the best, figuring out that foundation. So that way, by the end of this 3-day workshop, they have all of those things accomplished and they can actually move into the writing process.
Go back to your not reading until the 3rd grade. Wow. Where did that ability to shift your own mind to go from a non-reader thinking that you weren't smart to this person who has the confidence to not only write, but can guide and do for others in such a profound way?
Yeah, I took the long way around. That's for sure. I can actually pinpoint the book that pivoted my life. So background, you got the ADHD and barely making it through school. I ended up actually going to school for opera in college, because at the time I'm like, that the only thing I could do is sing. Then I also was married to a man and I'm gay. So I was living this life that I thought that I was only able to live. And then I followed this person. One day she posted about this book called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. So I'm like, well, if Ray likes this book, I'll like this book, because I had the biggest freaking crush on her. And so I started reading that book. And my whole life came into question. And that is such a powerful thing when we're questioning things. And I think that's what artists also do so well, is we question, why is it like this? Why do we do it like this? And that's when that innovation comes in. So that book got me to start questioning, why am I working in this field? Why am I in this marriage still? Why do I have these feelings? That questioning and her having these stories that started inspiring me to start working on my mindset and journaling and understanding why I think these things about myself. Why did I always think I was dumb? Because I ended up leaving the music and theater industry. I'm like, look at these limiting beliefs that I had about my intelligence. As I started questioning all of the things, I started making small actions to start finding that alignment, because I never lived in it before. When you never experience alignment, when you never experience what your truth feels like, and you're just being the person you're always told that you should be, it takes a while to figure out, okay, well, who am I then? I got a divorce. I started my business. And now I'm here.
How did you keep at it and keep digging and searching? Have a routine or something that you changed that helped you get to the place where you could leave the past behind and enter into a whole new career?
Yeah, I think initially the big thing that changed things is I never stopped learning. I never stopped reading. That book was the first of many books, between reading everything Jen Sincero wrote, reading everything Brene Brown wrote, really trying to understand myself and the human way of doing things and how to overcome those things. So that was one. And then journaling, because we tend to have this loop in the back of our mind going around all the time with these limiting beliefs, because we've had them for so long. So this is how our brain is protecting us. It's just keeping these limiting beliefs going to keep us small, because being big and being seen is really scary. And so you have to journal out, you have to get the things out of your head and onto paper in order to process them. And at the time, I could not afford therapy. So having the journal there and learning things, I was able to kind of start reforming my belief system about myself. And then I evolved into affirmations, a meditation practice, but that was my lane that helped me hold on to this transformation and not go back to that old comfort zone. And now if I start thinking of things in a limiting way, it feels icky. I'm like, oh, what is that? That doesn't fit. Because after, all this time, I've evolved into these feelings because I made it a priority.
When you're journaling, putting thoughts to paper, is there a system to it? How do you do that to get those limiting beliefs out of your head?
I did initially just a bunch of brain dumping, but then there's also a lot of really great guided journals out there that can help you start questioning, why do I put myself in this box? Why do I take these things, and looking at it through, okay, what music do you resonate with? What characters do you feel aligned with and why? So using different things as like a journal prompt or as a cue to help you start diving deeper, because sometimes it's just like such a tornado inside us that it's like trying to solve a puzzle while we're spinning in a tornado. We just can't do it. Pieces are flying everywhere. We have to find something that gets us out of that tornado and focused on the one thing in order to solve that one problem.
How did you then start and support yourself and build a business based on how do you do that?
A lot of perseverance and support.
I was going to say a lot of hustle.
Yeah. So, hustle culture kind of took over for a little bit, definitely. But also I think mentorship is hugely important, especially in the realms of entrepreneurship and of artistry. We need community because these are I feel like the creative act is often a very lonely act. And whether you're creating an online business where you're just sitting in your room by yourself 40 hours a week, or you're, working on your art, it's just you. It's just you and the thing that you're doing, your work of art. And so we need others around us. We need community because it's so easy to just gaslight yourself and be like, well, who am I to do this? So mentorship and community, I think, are vital in reaching that point of evolution and not giving up on your dreams, on the thing that you feel called to do.
It's strategic hustle. And I love the sense of mentorship and community. Well, we are wrapping up our time. I could talk forever, but I'm going to end this with a question that I ask a lot of people that I talk to, which is, how do you define art?
The creative act, the act of creating, framing anything creative, anything that you're taking from it doesn't exist to now it does, is art. And having that artist mindset is going to make everything better. I define it as that. I also wanted to offer your audience a $10 off discount code for my workshop. It's going to be on April 16th, 17th, and 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the information, I think, is going to be in the description. The code will be artists, all capital, 10. And that will be $10 off for anyone who listens to the podcast.
That's awesome. I appreciate that, Neno. And I love your perspective about art because often I talk to individuals who shy away from being labeled an artist because they feel that that's like this negative connotation. But the way that you described it, everyone's an artist. If you're creating something, whether you are in medicine or science or technology or creative painting, writing, etc., we're all artists.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Neno, for your time.
Thank you for having me.